Hi there. I'm David Oleski with the Rittenhouse Square Fine Art Show, 5 o'clock live, broadcasting live from the home office in Westchester, Pennsylvania. So, real quick, the deadline for the September show is Monday, March 11th. That's for the September professional application, whereas the application is still open for students for the June 2024 show, and that deadline is March 18th for the students. So today I'm going to be interviewing David Sear. Oh, here he is, son of a gosh here. So let me get him on board here. Ah, the suspense is mounting. Hey,
Hey,
David.
how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right. I'm all right.
Welcome to the broadcast here. How are you?
Thanks for having me on. It's nice to be here.
Yeah. So how are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right. Are we going to talk about what's in the mystery cups, or is that good? Is that like the end of the show?
Well, actually, the mystery cup and then the mystery beverage is to be announced in the comments down underneath in the little hoo-ha
Okay.
here. But
All right.
tell me, how long have you? I know the answer to this, but how many years have you done the Rittenhouse
Yeah.
Square Fine
Well,
Art Show?
so last September was my first time doing the Rittenhouse, the fine art show. So yeah, we had a great time. The weather was really fantastic for most of it. It was just the last
Yeah,
couple hours, and
yeah.
it really was. It's a nice setting. You guys do a really
Oh,
great job, setting it up. There's like a lot of different parts to get that thing
no,
to
thank
work.
you.
So, yeah,
Yeah, it's a labor of love for us. We're all very dedicated. Thank you for the kind words. How did you like it? You enjoyed yourself? Did you have a was it good on many levels for you?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, it was good. It was good. And it's a real high quality show, so a lot of
Oh,
competition.
there is that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if there's a point, it's like, well, there's too many good artists here. I guess you can't have too much of a good thing, but
Yeah, well, we call it dancing with the big dogs. Uh,
but yeah, but there'd be a lot of people that I don't normally see. So I'm in the Milwaukee area in Wauwatosa, one of the suburbs, and so my traveling loop, such as it is sort of upper Midwest mostly.
mm,
Sometimes I go out west. We try to do a show we'll call out east, but it's all like Chicago is sort of my area.
right.
So it's nice to see. So what I'm trying to get to is it's nice to see people who are really like you don't see maybe like typically say in
Right.
Chicago, or even out in Denver. And not that I go out to Denver that much, but uh, what I was trying to lead to is that artists talk about the Rittenhouse show like all over the country. There are people who travel
Wow.
and come to do that show, and it's interesting just to hear because you hear certain shows come up in different parts, different things that you're doing, and so Rittenhouse would be one of those things. Um, but I like coming to Philly, and our daughter is there right now, and she's going to graduate from Drexel.
Wow. Wow.
Am I going to be quoted now? Maybe, huh?
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you're now going to be one of our taglines.
Well, mission accomplished. We're done, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's all the only reason we do this.
Oh, uh, I was going to mention. So we've been out to Philly, and so a couple of our restaurants
Oh, yeah.
we went to last. Well, because you talk about that Philly experience.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
well, and the art museum is spectacular, right? And
Well,
going
yeah.
over to the Rodin. Actually, I'm hoping to get back to the Barns, maybe my next trip, because that's so like there's so much to take
Right.
in there. as far as cultural institutions. But we like this Choose Fish Town.
Mm.
It's a fusion place. Great food, and my daughter likes. I think it's Tom's Dim Sum.
Mm.
It's like kind of in the central. Not I don't know if it's quite in the central area. We got on the subway and went in and did that. And one of our trips we went to Paulino's. Do you know Paulino's?
I don't know
It's in Chester.
Paulino's. Tell me about Paulino's.
It's in Chester.
Chester. Well, the Chester and where I am,
Oh,
Westchester, are two
oh,
completely different places.
okay. All right. All right. Uh, it's so it looks like a couple has set up this pizza place like in their backyard. It was like one of those pandemic things, and we found it on a review, and we went. I mean, it was a riot. It really is almost like in someone's
Oh,
backyard. And anyway, we had great pie. I guess there's some Italian connection, and but yeah, it was kind of like, oh, Chester, that's close to where you are, I think. So
yeah. Right.
anyway,
Actually,
sorry to
it's the best part of an hour for me to get. I mean, it's like, yeah, 45 minutes for me to get there from
yeah
here. But
yeah
yeah, if you ever make it to Westchester, it's another foodie town. But yeah, we always would stay somewhat local to Rittenhouse Square, just to be on foot, to not have to move the vehicle, to not, spend too much time Ubering to a distant corner. But that's fantastic. You're learning probably about more neighborhoods than I am. I mean, I rarely make it to Fishtown, rarely make it to Northern Liberties, any of those neighborhoods. But I could tell you all about Chinatown and Little Saigon and some of the other neighborhoods, and especially right around Rittenhouse. I mean, just endlessly exploring more and more restaurants right there.
yeah. So for when we were out in September, we stayed just in University City, which is
Mm,
just would be kind of no. It's really not that far from Rittenhouse, and the connections like mass transit, bus, trolley, whatever, are really like it's real. And there's on-street parking free in that area. So we found that really worked out kind of sweet for us. Where our whole family kind of ended up joining me there. So,
nice. That's
oh
so
yeah,
nice.
oh yeah, yeah.
So, is there a chance we'll be seeing you in June, or are you going to be celebrating the great spring of the Midwest during that?
Well, I don't know yet. I mean, so you always have to uh, you have to be accepted.
Well, there is an application
Yep,
process,
yep.
and it is a stringent application process, and
So
yeah, so yeah, we'll
so
see.
so there's
You're like,
but I'm thinking about I'm going to be there one way or the other.
oh,
Our daughter is graduating, and it's right in that time frame.
wow,
Well, it's so, but we don't. Drexel likes to hold on to all the important dates, I guess, to the last minute.
right,
So we're trying to ferret all this stuff out. So if I get accepted, then we'll work through that and see if it's something I would like to do. We'll see if it's possible. So that's kind of where we are with that. So
great, great. Well, that's good. You say you already answered my first couple of questions. So, well, tell me about your work. Yeah, education, experience. What can you tell me? Us, all of us, the thousands of people. Yeah,
thousands of
six.
people.
Yeah.
Well, so yeah, thanks. Well, I'm a painter, but I work kind of mixed media, so there's a lot of charcoal and colored pencil, graphite, anything else I kind of have in my toolbox. And I start a lot of things on location. So I went to school I did my graduate work up in Long Island
Wow.
University, and so actually my relationship with Philadelphia kind of started during those times. This is back in the 1990s.
Oh,
But Philly's kind of like a nice escape to get down to, from New York. But so during that time, anyway, so since my schooling, I've been doing landscape because that was like something that was kind of not, it was like it wasn't allowed, it didn't really fit in with what was being taught in art school, or that was sort of my take on it.
Really?
And yeah, it really was. It was kind of looked down upon, like a little lowbrow. And well, because this is the modern age. It's installation art. I mean, then it was installation art. Computers were on. I mean, TV. Like this current age of technology was just starting to unfold, and so yeah, there was no. I never got any real love for even thinking about doing landscape. So, but what I learned was in the New York area, all these major artists were doing landscapes. And so I came out, I grew up in Iowa, and I come out and, studying art and going to these artist studios and galleries. And, I go to a talk on Philip Perlstein, the nudes. And he's talking about this trip where uh, he had all these assistants, and he was doing 4 by 8 foot woodblock prints, and they were landscapes.
Hmm.
So he's doing landscapes, and then then there's someone else, and they're all like, and it's not what they're known for, doing landscapes, but like it's like all of a sudden I'm discovering like, well, all these like contemporary modern artists, they're like closet landscape artists. Like, what is with that? And so Franz Klein and Jackson Pollock were kind of like sort of some of my artistic, models, heroes, and so Long Island, New York area was like a great place to study that group and see their artwork. So and you dig down, well, Franz Klein, there's another guy doing landscapes. Well, his not objective or abstract work is sort of based on landscapes.
Right.
And I think Pollock the same thing. So anyway, that sort of gave me the permission and excuse to do it. So then ever since then, I've been doing landscapes. So I'm sorry, that was a really long explanation for what do you do?
Well, I mean, but it's interesting that the art school climate didn't support that, which is kind of one of the classical foundation skills. I mean, I studied under the academy tradition where drawing from classical sculpture is still like interiors, and color theory was, I chose that path and I studied with the professors that supported that. Whereas there were professors that, spawned creativity and the more avant-garde and the more experimental. But to me, it seems like you should learn the disciplines first before you go into that. And landscape was within those disciplines.
Sure, yeah. Well, I had, but we did draw from life. It just wasn't. I never ever got that it was sort of a thing that you could really run with. Uh,
Right.
so so I started doing it, and then I'm having a hard time actually getting out of it now. I was more kind of a non-objective painter, you say around 1990, 92, and so um, but anyway, this is what I do, so it's a mix of things, of media, and so I do start a lot of work on location, so plein air style. So I have a rig, and I go out, and there are areas that I work in around here, or if I have I've been fortunate to get a couple visiting artist gigs, and so I take the show on the road.
All right.
And so it's a lot of fun. But I start things on location, and then I finish them later in the studio, and sort of that whole process informs, I think, each it goes both. It informs what I'm doing out in the land, but what I'm drawing from real life or grabbing colors or whatever kind of informs what I'm doing in the studio. So I keep doing it. So
So the thing that's fascinating to me is that the foundation is in plein air. Is it ever completed in plein air to the point that you'd call yourself a plein air painter?
no, and I don't consider myself a plein air painter, but you know, if you so much as do 15 minutes, you're a plein air painter, you know. So, um,
Most plein air paintings are done in 15 minutes.
uh, not David Sears. So, it's just that's just the beginning of the kind of the process for me. So, uh, yeah, so that's kind of how I work, and then I develop the develop my themes and series, I guess, later as it goes. I should point out what's behind me in the studio is work that's in progress.
Ah,
It's not really it's not finished. You know, it's coming along. But so
wow.
those are those are some things I can do the pan a little bit.
Oh,
So
yeah,
do the
nice.
pan.
Okay, so
I know.
our chairperson Sharon Strine, hello
Yeah,
Sharon,
yeah.
great to see you here. She asked, when you leave the
No,
plein air setup, do you capture a photo of the setting to finish in the studio, or do you just remember and invent from the impression?
no. Very seldom do I take any photographs. So the process is I go out and whatever it's doing that morning, there's something in the light, there's something in the scene or the shapes. I've got what I tell people is I've got about a 60 to 90-minute window, and then the light changes so much that it's a different landscape, it's a different scene for me. So if I'm still on that spot, I pull out another panel. I pull out something else. I mean, when I go out, I make all these different panels, or I work flat a lot, and I just throw those in the car, and I have this kind of what would you call it? It's just a whole bunch of stuff that I take with me, and it's sort of like, okay, I feel like this one, and this one's going to be a long skinny. This one's going to be a golden section, and I have that stuff is all prepared before I go out, and it's sort of like whatever my mood is or the conditions, that's how it goes. So I block in the light. It's the light and the color that I'm capturing, and there are certain parts in that composition that I want in that 60 to 90-minute period, and then it's over. So if I have to capture it, if I don't capture it in that time, then I either work it out in the studio later, or I'll come back the next week, or during maybe within a week. The light conditions kind of similar. So
Right.
it's a
The question just came up. How many hours are you out there painting then in total? Like you're gathering your
yep.
reference canvases.
It's not set. Each one is about 60 to 90 minutes. So if it's a big painting, like I just had that big painting, I actually did that big. It was one way back in the studio. So I got some stuff here in the way. It's this one, right?
Wow, that
This
is
this one
big.
right
Yeah.
here, right?
Yeah.
And there's a top part to that. I have my thing in the way there, but um, so I might have to go back two times to get everything I want
Oh,
in a
really?
painting.
Back to the same location.
Yeah.
Ah,
Oh, yeah. They're like fishing holes. You go back and, if it's good for one, it might be good for 10 more
yeah.
or,
It's just like fly fishing. Yeah.
yeah, with acrylic
Yeah.
paints and
Yeah.
colored pencils and charcoal and graphite. And, people will stop by and visit. And, I mean, that's kind of a fun
And
thing
that's all
too.
part of plein air. Right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's a good
So
time.
so then
But
most of the time is spent back in the studio finishing just from
yeah.
what you've gathered.
So I block in the shapes. I draw in the shapes. When you work, you can get a lot done in 60 to 90 minutes. Because it's the time. Here's the nice thing. Here's the other thing I've come to appreciate about it. You're out, you're out somewhere, right? You can choose, I guess, to be on your phone, but you're away from all the distractions of the house, your life,
Yeah.
whatever. And you're either listening to stuff or you're just focused, and it's a nice respite is what it is. Even when I'm here in my studio, there's always stuff seems like going on that you know that can be interrupters.
All right.
Uh, so um, so that's the thing. That's one of the things I really appreciate. But when I to get back to your question, when I go out, so say I have, I might prepare uh, 6 canvases or panels that are ready to go. They're primed up. I actually work with a grid underneath, so they're gridded out and different sizes. I have my paint box, a couple easels. So um, if the sun's up at 6, you know, I'll be out there at 6 with the coffee, maybe donut, and depending where
Breakfast of
I'm going.
champions.
Well, you got to be prepared, you
Yeah,
know. You got to be rewarded for doing all that
of
work,
course. Yeah.
you know. And but it's sort of so maybe I work until 11, so I might start 3 paintings or 2 paintings in that period. It just kind of depends how you know how large this the bigger the painting, the longer it takes to get things in there, especially when you're outdoors. So
Right.
but mainly it's just blocking things in, capturing what I want from that time, and then on to the next. So
Wow. That's uh that's really gutsy. I mean, the idea of gathering the information, but trying to just retain it with just those few reference notes. I guess that's what artists would call going commando. I have a hard time just flying blind like that. If it's not something I can reference, it's funny I would say that because I do the abstract work, which of course is the vaguest reference to anything. But what you're doing, very challenging, and that's impressive. That's how you do it.
it's the first, say your first year, getting all your materials together, and it's basically your rig. It is like fishing. uh you
Oh,
know
so Sharon here, do you have a
yes.
list of places you'd love to go paint but haven't been there yet? Like a bucket list of places you would like to seek out?
Yeah, so I'm pretty happy exploring. So I grew up in Iowa and we live in Wisconsin, and I really love this upper Midwest terrain. I'd probably just be happy, doing this. And there's enough material for me: agricultural fields, river basins. I mean, one of my themes is the Mississippi River, and
Mm.
I could just do that all the time. In fact, if that would be something that I would like to do, if I could just go spend just a year just only doing Mississippi River things. Uh, um, I think I would love to do that. But um, I enjoy going out. I was an artist in residence at Yellowstone National Park,
Mm.
and I was out there for like three weeks. That was amazing. So so painting out west is fantastic too, but it's a different kind of, the spaces are bigger, much larger, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot more information in the, because it's so much broad. This is what I've
Yeah.
learned. So that can be tricky. Um, so yeah, I think I'm looking for my next kind of maybe residency, out west. I think, that's kind of next on my list. You as far as bucket list stuff goes.
Have you ever worked abroad?
No, we we take trips, but I kind of like, what, I'm okay just sort of disengaging
Huh?
and enjoying espresso or whatever.
Oh yeah, traveling is for travel. So you
Patisserie,
don't have to
I you
carry
know,
it with you. Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think it would
So
be fascinating because, I mean, to me, the qualities of light in other places and how they would pertain to not only landscape, but just painting in general. Like, I went to art school in Baltimore. So whenever I'm driving on 95 going through there, I'm reminded of a quality of daylight. There's a color, a milkiness to it. I don't know if it's proximity to the harbor and the water or what, but I'm reminded of what it was that was so exciting about painting when I was a student there. And I'm very aware of how that light is different in different places, especially other parts of the world.
yeah, well, and yeah, the light is different, I think, out east. I don't know if I would want to drive around Pennsylvania doing like I always uh, when I was going to school in New York, we do these drives across Pennsylvania, and these great vistas and stuff, and yeah, I mean it's phenomenal. But as far as a bucket list for me, I'm kind of happy just doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So
Well, I
and
mean,
people seem to like it, so I guess I'm onto something.
maybe try sticking with that. So do you remember? So how long have you been doing shows professionally?
Like the art fair,
Yeah.
the art fair. Well, okay, so really, the pandemic got me to do. I was able to. It's only been like 3 years.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah,
Wow. Wow.
I always so previously I was sort of in an academic model, and some of that to me is you get a gallery, right, and your gallery represents you, and you're doing that, and you're always looking for the next biggest gallery and
Yeah.
all that nonsense.
Well,
Although I
I
will
mean,
say,
I
I
think
will
it's
say,
valid. I mean, it is valid. They've got
yes,
controlled lighting. There's climate control. They're not affected by the bad weather. They can host events and not, wonder as it get dark or might the weather be bad. I mean, they're in control of a lot of things. So I think it's a valid outlet.
oh yeah, and probably shouldn't have said that because I do have I'm represented by a gallery in Door County, and I mean, it's been great, and you know, I don't really, it's a good relationship, but the nonsense part is it's a lot of work to get your stuff together. Actually, the nonsense part is you've got to find a gallery that you trust, right? Someone who's going to pay you when they sell. Someone's going to, like that's not
It's not
as
a standard constant as much as it should
no.
be.
There's a lot of pitfalls out there. I'm sorry to, and so it's a lot. It's a lot just to handle that model. But anyway, I probably have had a gallery, some kind of gallery representation for the last 20, 30 years. And then I've also had who are the corporate buyers and people like that. I pick up some of those. But during the pandemic, and part of it was we kind of felt at like it would be hard for me just to be traveling, all the time doing art fairs, and
Right.
I just wasn't. I wasn't sure about it. So I had a couple friends, and they've been encouraging me for years, and you hear things, from other people, and so yeah, the pandemic kind of freed me, and I was like, you know what? I was working in a school district, and I was like, I think this is the time. So yeah, I was one of those people really, the uh, like the pandemic changed a lot of people's lives and stuff. And there was a whole group of people who quit their
Sure.
jobs and went out and did something else. I quit my job. I just kept doing more of
Right.
the other thing I was doing. I was always maintaining a practice, but now I have more time to do it. So, and it's great. I really can't recommend the the art fair, show the circuit. It's great, and there's so many of them, and it's like a puzzle every year. You kind of have to figure it all
Sure.
out. Like that kind of engaging, and you're always, I mean, and there's a narrative to all these shows, right? Like every show, sometimes it's the artist, right? Sometimes, when you go to these, like any sort of outdoor fair, sometimes it's the patrons, sometimes it's the weather. I mean, it's just like there's a story through every one of these, and they're all different. I mean, and it's great. And it's also wonderful just to have people come in and, man, just compliment you for like 2 or 3 days straight,
Yeah.
you know.
Great for the
It's like,
ego.
"Yeah, this is
Yeah.
great."
At the end of the weekend, you feel like "God, people really do like me."
Yeah, I know. It's fantastic. Um, but you do have to, but managing that tent, right? Managing your rig, getting a tent together, what kind of tent you buy. Like there's a lot to that. and I think that probably stopped me for years. Because um, there's just a lot to know about that.
I mean, yeah,
Uh,
logistics, they can be daunting, and
well, yeah, and putting up the flourish tent is it's physical.
oh yeah,
Uh, you have to learn how to do it, but it's really good.
yeah.
you know. So
But yeah, when I first started doing the Rittenhouse Square Art Show back in the year 2000, there was a 5-day show. It was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and every day you had to take your tent down. And then the show was in the middle of the park, not around the perimeter. So you had to dolly out from the middle of the tent all of your work. And they finally acquiesced and allowed us to leave our tents up as long as nothing was in them. So, and on the second or third day, and as I'm pushing this cart in to set up again, the light bulb went off. It's just like the construction job I used to have. You work really hard every day. And you don't whine about this one hard part of it that happens every day. That's the job. So what the show's evolved to is you know kind of great, but yeah, from its beginnings that I experienced, it was a completely different event, and just even more daunting, the idea of and then even the application process. You had to bring your work in person into Philadelphia and leave it in this huge hall that they had, so that because it was before they used slides and digital, and they actually looked at the work itself to jury you into the event. So you were limited to, the area right around Philadelphia that you could easily bring your work in just for the jury night.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
I'm glad we've opened up the whole way to Wisconsin and hopefully further.
actually, it was kind of cool. There were at least like three or four other people from Wisconsin that I found. And actually, someone just like really about 3/10 away from me that I didn't even know. Actually, in the Milwaukee area.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, yeah. I mean, that part's fun too. Meeting other artists. But I would say to anyone like thinking about like a young artist thinking about going out. I mean, all the artists are so really supportive. It's not a cliche to say that. Other artists are so supportive, especially of people who are new, to the whole art show, art fair experience, and so um, I think that's really helpful. But getting the logistics, getting the tent, and I mean that's a hard thing to kind of figure out on your own. So, but once you get that established, oh, and here's my tip. For
Oh.
anyone who's still listening, um, is I was able to rent a tent for my first year out. Someone had a tent; they weren't going out, and maybe I was just fortunate. But I was able to rent a tent and try someone else's tent out, for my first few shows. So, and that was a great way for me to go. So I would encourage anyone who's thinking about doing to give that a try.
Well, I know of exhibitors that have rented a vehicle for every show for years rather than own the vehicle and maintain it. So there's things you can do, that there's different kinds of legwork involved, but not as much risk and investment. And the biggest thing is finding the stamina to just pace yourself and find that stride to keep doing it consistently, and not having those dramas unfolding with each show of the things you didn't remember and the things that are surprising you. And everybody's got this there's this real thick skin after a while. Like I was standing at a show in Florida a few weeks ago, and it's like 4:15, and I'm standing with a couple of other artists. We're enjoying a beverage. It's Sunday, show's almost over, ready to tear down, and the drizzle just starts to turn into a heavy roar, and everybody just looked at each other. Nobody had to say anything. It's like this just went from a little bit sad and dreary to really aggressively miserable. And nobody even had to say anything. All of us have, we all have such thick skin now. It's like, okay, we're getting dumped on right at the close of the show and tear down. Nobody's whining. There's no tears. It's like, all right, slug through it. Just get her done. You
Sometimes
know.
rains.
So yeah, it's great having you on board with the group. You know, having you joining the family. I think it's you know, it's a great group. So
Yeah.
any artists that are thinking about applying to the show, by all means, as I said, the June deadline, the application deadline for the June show's already passed, whereas September 2024 show the deadline is March 11th. You know, and it is, you know, it is the Philadelphia art show experience. There is no other place to show your work in this quality of a venue, plus right in the middle of one of the most dynamic parts of the city. As you
Yeah.
can hear from David and David here, that we're huge fans of the of every part of Philadelphia and the neighborhood.
And
So
great coffee places too, right there in
oh
Richmond.
yeah, La Colombe's right there. And, you know,
Yeah.
that's just to name drop a few. I mean, the Dandelion, the British pub, it's right on Sansom. I mean, just they just do it upright, and all the restaurants on Sansom and on Chestnut, and of course right there, Park, right across from if you ever get a chance, it's fantastic. The restaurant that's right on the other side, opposite from
Yeah.
where we are.
Yeah. 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 No, I think I would like to try that. So we'll
Yeah,
we'll see if I can get that in.
yeah. See if you squeeze that one in too. Just, I mean, all of these shows, they wind up becoming dining destinations. Like, when we're in Miami, we've got this punch list of all the places we want to try, all the places we love, we want to go back to. And Philadelphia is the same thing. Just this is a 3-day food coma for us. So,
You know,
does anybody out there in viewer land have any last questions here? If you want to learn anything about Wisconsin. So
I hope
I was asking how long you've been doing shows because I was wondering if you knew the artist Lars von Spanberger.
I don't.
He he did the festivals up until he was 96 years old.
I've heard of
He
him.
was
Yeah. Yeah.
he
Yeah.
did all it was all I think he lived north outside of Chicago, but all of his images were of Wisconsin hillsides and scenery.
Yeah. 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 No,
And
I've heard of
yeah,
him. Yeah.
the sweetest guy. His little wife Dallas would always drive while he's taking pictures, and he would keep saying, "Slow down, I'm trying to get a picture." And she's this bent over, little shriveled lady saying, "No, you have to go faster." It's just the funniest little couple, and he was just he was so productive up to the age of 96. He had this an army of all of his grandkids and great grandkids all helping to set him up and. That's he was local to your area. So here's a question: do you guys sell online during the pandemic? Actually, when the show was had to be canceled because of the pandemic, we decided to have just nonstop, back-to-back in studio demos in different artists' studios, and we had a whole series of interviews. I took over one whole day of doing like half a dozen of these interviews, just so we didn't go dark for the weekend. And at the same time, we also had a online gallery within the Rittenhouse Square Fine Art Show website where we were helping artists by placing work for them. And we did actually move some work through that portal. But personally, my experience during the pandemic was yes, I did sell during the pandemic online, which I guess could have been the short answer to that question. But the
We offer
yeah,
no short
yeah. I
answers.
mean,
I don't
clients
know.
came out of the woodwork. It's like we're stuck at home, we're staring at the empty wall. Now we might as well do it. And so things went really, really well. But Yeah, so you only just started doing the shows. Did you have what was your experience during the pandemic, as far as trying to do business?
So, well, no, I had gallery representation, and I think it was. I don't remember. Um, I think it was maybe the same old, same old. So I didn't really feel like I personally didn't do anything more online. Um, and I think that I was busy trying to figure out so I came on the scene as shows were starting to open up again, which was sort of kind of a free for all a little
Yeah,
bit,
lucky you.
and so it was kind of like trying to piece something. And it worked out well because I could try things maybe that wouldn't typically be available. But there were some things, where shows carried artist pools over. But anyway, um, so yeah, I don't know. I don't. I had a show in Milwaukee open up right at the beginning, kind of the lockdown, and my art was sort of like, I won't say it was impounded, but it was stuck in a building down in Milwaukee, and I
Wow.
couldn't get it out because no one was doing anything, and no one would even open the doors. It's like a 6-story artist building. It's right down in the third ward.
Oh, right.
And I was like, okay. So I didn't sell that work.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was,
Oh,
I remember watching all the shows canceling right in front of us, and all these artists are watching, their life flash in front of their eyes. It's like, oh no, you can't be canceling. What am I going to do? It's like, all of us survived it. We all figured out a way through it. Um, yeah, and I think, it forced us to become a little more inventive. I mean, I invested more in my online presence. I started making videos and music soundtracks to the videos, and I thought, well, what if this is like bubonic plague and it just like sweeps through and wipes out, of horrible proportions, and I might not be one of the people that's on the other end. I decided, let's just start getting videos up on YouTube and just live on somehow, and it really changed somewhat how I thought about the notion of legacy.
mm,
And,
mm-hmm.
and some of that's even stuck with me, that I thinking more about the big picture in the long term of what is the graven image we're leaving behind that can speak to who we are and what we'd like to be representing, what we'd like to be seen as representing.
Yeah, yeah. I think for me, I guess if you could, I don't know if you could call it a gift, but how about a positive outlook, positive takeaway from the pandemic, in that I have to create more. I can work through ideas. The art fair circuit is now allowed. I have to work through my ideas quicker. So before I had a little more luxury. I'm thinking about this painting, and I'm going to move this area here. But now I have to. I'm able to scale up more. And so for me, the art fair, it's nice for me to be able to sell. And I think of each piece sort of as an idea, something I worked on, and then I'm able to make more of these and move them out. And I'm real thankful, for that as well, because otherwise I could kind of just formally just keep working on something, changing this color here, or that shape, and I'm kind of a formal. I'm a really kind of a formalist at heart, art, as far as putting colors against each other and composition and all that kind of thing. Landscape's just a vehicle, I think. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, but that'd be my takeaway. I'm able to work through things quicker because, well, at the end, I kind of have to have a product, and people are taking the product, thankfully, and so I gotta, so it's great. It's great.
There was a point early in my career, going way back 15 years ago. I'd only been doing this for a few years, and you finish paintings and you like to think you've got this archive of who you are surrounding you, but then people are just buying these things left and right. They're becoming fans of it, but you're realizing that it's almost like footprints you left in the snow behind you are getting erased as you keep moving forward. And
Oh,
it's suddenly there's a you feel like your path back was erased and all you can do is keep going.
yeah, yeah. I've not thought of it like that, but so when you go back and look at your footprints that have been erased, do you still like those old footprints?
Uh,
Because
I
sometimes
mean,
I look at older work of mine, I'm like, oh,
yeah.
I don't know. It's
I mean,
interesting.
I'm glad I've learned the things I've learned. And I see when I see those, I see what I had yet to learn. And I see some of the things I did that I then learned beyond them. Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's a little bit of soul searching when you see the older work and realize, who you were, and it kind of redefines who you are.
yeah. Or is it just it's just the moment that you're in now is just different than the one you were in before,
Oh yeah,
too.
most
I guess that's what
definitely.
you just said,
Yeah,
but
most definitely. David, thank you. This
oh,
was fun.
okay, good. I apologize. I apologize if I went off.
No, that was fun. I was informative, and this will stay up so everybody can cross-reference some of the artist names that he's dropped, and then pursue your own personal artistic education, and come to the June show on June 7th, 8th, and 9th. You might see David there. You'll definitely see David there, and thank you again for joining us. This was a lot of fun,
Great.
and
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's fun. It's
all
fun.
right,
Um, okay, Dave.
be well,
Yeah,
and thank you all for tuning in.
take care.
All right, bye bye.